In Project Zomboid, most people think a mall is the ultimate death trap, or a stadium, somewhere with thousands of exits you can't reach. But me? I think the worst place to be in is a 1,000-foot long luxury prison. This is the path of the Zenith. 7 decks of 1990s luxury, isolated hundreds of miles from land. It's got everything: a shopping gallery, a Spiffos bowling alley, and enough penthouse suites for the elite. The mod description says it boards 250 hungry passengers, but it was way off. My goal is simple but insane: total cleansing. No zombie respawns, no possible way of escape from the ship. Every single cabin, engine room, and dark hallway has to be cleared until I am the only thing left breathing on this ship. So in a place where there's nowhere to run and the deep blue sea is your only neighbor, the question isn't just, can I survive? It's, can I take back the Zenith? Welcome to the world's shortest vacation. There's a specific kind of silence you only find in the middle of the ocean. Usually, it's peaceful. Unfortunately for Brian Humphrey, it is the complete opposite. I grabbed myself a tree branch and wore a winter jacket for extra protection. I also took a designer dress and ripped it into rag strips to bind my wounds. The moment I stepped into the living room, all hell broke loose. Zeds managed to break into my suite and lunged for me. I retreated to the balcony and killed them. To make sure Brian wouldn't suffer the good old corpse sickness, I dragged the bodies out to the balcony. After everything, I ventured into the hallway, thinking there wouldn't be any more stragglers. Then I saw them, a mass of shadows by the elevators. And with that, my mission to clear the ship felt impossible. I lured what I could back to my kill zone, trying to make a dent in a number I couldn't yet count. After clearing out Suite A4, I grabbed a canned corned beef, microwaved a patty, and looted a digital watch from a Zed I just bashed its head in. I pushed too far into room A2, and Zed swarmed me from the shadows. After a moment of silence, I reached for the safety of room A4. I made it back, but I suffered a scratch from the earlier altercation. With that, I ended day 1. I woke up on day 2 with one thought: am I still human? The scratch from yesterday was a dull sting, but the fever hadn't broken out yet. I couldn't afford to wait for the end, so I went back into room A2. After a brutal struggle, the room was finally mine. I found a small backpack and a leather pouch strap, but looking at the bodies on the floor, I realized I couldn't just leave them there. This ship is a closed ecosystem, and in fear of any reanimations, I have to be the garbage man. One by one, I hauled them to the balcony and heaved them into the abyss. I got exhausted, so I sat on the floor, and suddenly I found my prize: a gas mask. It was a very crucial item, and I definitely would need it up until the end of this run. A straggler tried to catch me off guard, but I was ready. I jammed the couch into the doorframe earlier. I watched him struggle before I ended it. Back into the ocean he went. I moved to Suite A1. It was eerily silent. I traded my winter jacket for a tanned leather coat, tougher, heavier, more suited for the work ahead. I also found a lighter and a pen. I fought my way through the main hallway, clearing the path to the employees' room. I grabbed a baggage trolley and some heavy tables, dragging them across to block the entrance to the main hallway. I then spent the final hours of the day back in my own suite, dragging the last of the corpses over the railing and throwing them overboard. I sat on the balcony as the sun began to dip, chewing on a piece of beef jerky and opening a book on marksmanship. If I'm going to clear this ship, I can't keep fighting barehanded. Day 3. Venturing back into the hallway, I noticed the barricade was destroyed, so I tried to rebuild. I dragged another couch into the gap, desperate to seal the hallway. But the zenith was ever so cruel. Stragglers wandered in, their vacant eyes fixing on poor Brian. I had to drop the fortification plan and kill them first. Then I heard it. A low electronic hum vibrating through the walls. Just past the penthouse wing sat VidHits, a relic of the 90s filled with VHS tapes. The TVs were still on, and to the dead, it's a dinner bell, so I can't let the noise draw them by my area. After an in-game hour of brutal close combat, the place was finally quiet. Brian was exhausted, struggling just to catch his breath. You have to wonder what's going through his head right now as he tries to purify the ship of the undead. I retreated to my balcony for the final hours of the day, consuming a jar of preserved cabbage and having the quiet company of my book. I finished the final chapters on marksmanship as night falls. Day 3 is done. Day 4. I stepped out of the suite, clearing the morning guests from the hallway. I had a destination in mind, the Hanging Gardens. As I moved past VidHits, I heard a low collective moan vibrating from the bar counter near the gardens. A horde. Too many, in fact. So I had to be smart. I led them away from the bar, luring them toward the open railing of the Hanging Gardens. With the bar finally quiet, I scavenged what the Zeds had left behind. A bag of chips for the hunger, and a short bat for the quiet kills. But then I saw it. A sawed-off Mossberg 500. I mean, using a gun on a cruise ship is a very risky move, but it's also the only way I'm surviving this. I hit the apparel store next. I traded my penthouse vanity for a pair of sturdy gloves and a beanie. I had to make sure to get every layer of protection. I then spent the afternoon hauling furniture, turning the penthouse hallway into a true bunker. I also sealed the staircase to the 7th deck. I retreated to Suite A4 to handle the basics. Water, and the grim task of dragging corpses to the balcony. And with that, Day 4 is done. Day 5, I headed out of the suite and moved west, past the Hanging Gardens toward the mini golf course. It's a strange sight, seeing a place built for games looking empty and stagnant. I fell back into the routine. I spent the morning luring groups of stragglers from the course back to the balcony railing. It's exhausting work, but it's the only way to clear this deck without wasting what little gear I have left. About 10 minutes into the clearing, I saw one that stood out. He was wearing a hockey mask and carrying a machete, a Jason Voorhees lookalike. I knew immediately I couldn't just push him over the railing. He smashed through a window and lunged over a table at me. I managed to get him down and finished him with a heavy stomp to the head. The machete is a solid find. It's got real weight to it, a major upgrade over the usual methods that I've been using. I went right back to work, spending the next 30 minutes clearing the rest of the mini golf area. Lead them to the edge, push them over, machete, and repeat. By the time I finished, Brian's arms were tired. I retreated back to the suite for the night. I sat out on the balcony eating my food and watching the water, just trying to get some energy back for tomorrow. Day 5 is finally over. Day 6, I went back to the mini golf course to finish the job. The machete makes quick work of them, but I got careless. One lunged, pushing me back into another, causing a tear in my upper torso from a laceration. I bandaged it tight and kept moving. I couldn't let the injury stop the momentum. I found a nearby bar to catch my breath and check the dressing on the wound. I spent some time leaning by the balcony, just watching the waves and waiting for the sting to dull. Once I was stable, I headed back toward the elevators and blockaded the staircase leading down to the 5th deck. I need to make sure nothing climbs up behind me. I moved up to the 7th deck to scout the forward POIs. The helipad was the first thing I saw. It's a long drop to the water. I checked the rest of the deck. the CCTV post, the infirmary, and the command bridge. I thought the trip was going to be a bust for supplies until I hit the break room. I found a shotgun and unloaded the shells for later. I also found a duffel bag, a much needed upgrade over my small backpack. With the forward section of Deck 7 empty, I can officially mark this area as cleared. I looped back through the mini golf course, clearing out a few more stragglers that had wandered into the open. I took the stairs up to the aft section of Deck 7, entering the Sports and Fitness Center. I spent the final hours of the day dropping every Zed I could find in the immediate vicinity. I need the maneuvering space if I'm going to clear this entire deck tomorrow. Day 6 is done. Day 7. I headed back up to the recreational deck to finish what I started. After the dust settled, I scavenged the area. I found a hacksaw, a vital tool for disassembling furniture and reinforcing my barricades. I checked every corner of the sports courts and the pool areas. Nothing left moving. With that, both the forward and aft sections of Deck 7 are officially clear. I moved back down to Deck 6. Most of the hanging gardens are silent now, but there's one POI I haven't touched yet, the nightclub. I stood at the entrance for a long time. It was pitch black inside, save for the faint, rhythmic glow of neon lights along the walls. I could see the silhouettes of guests standing still in the shadows, waiting. Brian is exhausted, and fighting in the dark is a good way to get killed. I decided to call it for the day and leave the club for tomorrow. Day 8. The morning started with maintenance. I applied a fresh bandage to the laceration on my torso and headed out. The wound is holding, but I can't afford another mistake like yesterday. I headed straight for the nightclub. I moved through the entrance slowly, picking off the Zeds until the room was finally silent. With that, Deck 6 is officially clear, at least for now. I quickly realized that clearing a deck is only temporary on a ship this size. Some stragglers from the lower levels had already found the staircase near the mini-golf course and wandered up. I had to clear the area all over again. It's a constant battle against the tide. I still had daylight left, so I decided it was time to push further down. I broke down the wooden shelves I'd used to block the staircase to Deck 5. I have a feeling the lower decks will be the end of me if I'm not careful, but I can't stay on the upper decks forever. Spiffle's bowling area was quiet when I arrived, but the peace didn't last. More of them were climbing up from Deck 4. Among the crowd, I spotted a few Zeds in police uniforms. I managed to scavenge a firefighter axe and a submachine gun. It's the best haul I've had in days. I was starving, so I raided the Spiffos kitchen. I ended up downing a whole bottle of ketchup just to keep my strength up. From there, I pushed west into the casino. It was the usual routine, clearing rooms and checking for anything edible. By the time I reached the elevators, the exhaustion was setting in. I made my way back, re-barricading the staircase to Deck 5 behind me. Before calling it a night, I went through my duffel bag and dumped a stack of useless skill books I'd been hauling around. Day 8 is done. Day 9. I spent the morning performing maintenance on my gear. I then headed back down to the 5th deck, moving toward the VIP class wing. I spent the afternoon clearing and looting the VIP rooms. I traded my ripped black leather coat for a green tan greatcoat. It was heavier, more durable, and offers much better protection. I even found a bear headdress in a walk-in closet. Strange thing to bring on a cruise, but I guess it'll work for Brian. I finished hauling the loot out of the suites. The VIP wing was completely void of Zeds, which only made me more uneasy. I know the lower decks won't stay this peaceful. To settle my nerves, I headed back to the casino area to cull the few stragglers I'd missed earlier. I pushed further into Deck 4, scouting the kids' recreational area, the large auditorium, and the cafe. It was all empty. It's concerning. I have 2 decks left to clear, and finding this much empty space makes me wonder if they've all bunched up somewhere I haven't seen yet. I decided to end the day in one of the VIP rooms. Day 9 is done. Day 10. I spent the morning checking the action on the Mossberg. It's time to remind this ship that Brian Humphrey is still here. I made my move towards deck 3. A Zed caught me off guard and managed to scratch my lower torso. In this world, a single scratch is a ticking clock. If I'm going to turn in a few days, I'm going out with a bang. I lured a mass of them into the main atrium. I started with a machete to thin the herd. The roar of the shotgun echoed through the halls. A dinner bell for every Zed on the ship. I led the growing horde toward the western side of decks 4 and 5, the casino and the 2-story restaurant. I needed them focused on the noise while I looked for an exit. After a few close calls where I nearly got pinned against the railings, I realized I had to ditch the area before I was completely surrounded. I retreated back up to deck 6 through the hanging gardens. I had to reseal the barricade leading down to deck 5. I made it back to room A3 to catch my breath and reload. Every shell felt heavier than the last. The sting in Brian's gut is a constant reminder. I don't know how much time he has left, so I can't waste it sitting in a suite. I realized my little parade had dragged half of deck 3 up into the areas I'd already cleared. I fought my way back down to the VIP rooms on deck 5. I'm moving my base of operations here. I need to be closer to the front lines if I'm going to finish clearing decks 4 and 5. I then spent the afternoon hauling furniture to seal off the VIP wing. Once it was secure, I cleared the stragglers near the bowling area. With the main entrance hall momentarily quiet, I pushed down the stairs to deck 3, the shopping gallery. I managed to hit the mini supermarket and grab some supplies, killing anything that heard me coming. I checked most of the storefronts, but I didn't want to push my luck with the light fading and a fresh injury. Brian is tired and hurt. End of day 10. Day 11. I ate what I could this morning, but I couldn't taste much of it. The scratch on Brian's torso is burning now, a steady pulsing heat that tells me the clock is ticking. I took the elevator down to deck 3 to check the standard class rooms, but the hallways were mostly empty. I moved from door to door, clearing the few stragglers that remained. I stopped to rest on a couch in the hallway. Brian is tired, not just the physical exhaustion of the last 10 days, but a deep, hollow weight in his chest. He sat there for a long time, wondering if he'd even recognize the person he was before he boarded the Zenith. I decided to skip the economy rooms on the west side for now. I needed more firepower if I was going to finish this, so I pushed down to deck 2. I found a security locker, boxes of shotgun shells. I started to believe I might actually be the one to walk off this ship alive. I then found the entrance to the engine room. Heavy growling was heard from every corner of the dark. That's when I realized the heart of the ship was infested. I backed away, deciding to leave the engines for last. I headed back up to deck 4. I took a moment to drink some water and finish my rations. This was it. The massive horde in the casino and the restaurant was the only thing standing between me and the lower decks. I started with a machete, trying to keep it quiet, but my arms were like lead. I was too exhausted to keep the pace. I had no choice. I pulled the shotgun and started blazing. A dinner bell for every Zed left on the Zenith. I fired until the shells were gone and the barrel was hot. I transitioned to my Beretta, picking them off as they spilled out of the casino. I was making progress. I was winning. Then, I felt it. One hit was all it took to break my rhythm. Before I could do anything, the crowd closed in, and the light of the atrium began to fade. Brian thought he could be the one to save the Zenith, but the ocean is vast, and he's just one man. My run is over. Thank you for sticking around the end of the video. Be sure to like and sub, and if you guys have any specific challenges, maps, or crazy rules you want me to try in the future, hit the comments and let me know. I'm always looking for new ways to test my luck. I'll see you on the next one. Peace.